What's going on, everybody? JD Game here, and today guys, for the first ever time on the channel, I'm going to be trying to create my first ever tier list. So this is going to be my first time trying something like this, and for today's tier list, what we're going to do is we're going to be ranking all of my how to builds over the years. So I think this should be pretty fun, and the things that I'm going to take into consideration for this are the accuracy and the build quality, the aesthetic appeal, meaning the look, and then the impact that the build itself has had on the channel. So as you can see on the left hand side here, we have 5 different tiers. We have the S tier, the A tier, the B tier, the C tier, and the D tier. So as you can see below, I have all the builds lined up, starting with the alphas, then we have the Axe, we have Granny 1, 2, and 3, Baldi's Basics, Bendy and the Ink Machine Chapter 1, some custom Hello Neighbor houses, the remastered Hello Neighbor houses, and followed by 2 builds that we haven't yet seen on the channel that are in production, but nevertheless we're still going to rank. So to kick things off, we're going to start with Hello Neighbor Pre-Alpha. Now, this build is pretty good. I mean, I'm not going to complain about it. It's alright. I do believe that this build does need some remastering. It's got some of my older building techniques, and there's no doubt that whenever you look at this thing, you can tell that it's one of the older how to builds on the channel, but overall, I'm okay with the product. There's a few things I could tell you right now that I'd like to update right off the rip, which would be the roof. I would also like to change some things inside, but overall, it's an okay build. I'm not going to complain, but for now, I think to start things off, we're going to put this build into the C tier, which I know isn't very high, but hey, you never know, we could change things as we go. So next up, we're going to move into one of the most iconic builds on the channel, which is Hello Neighbor Alpha 1, the original. Overall, I really like this build. It's one of the most nostalgic whenever I go back and revisit it. However, I did remaster it for good reason, just because there are a few different things that I would have liked to change, which are the roof, maybe a little bit of the interior, and it's pretty accurate for the most part, but overall, I'm more than satisfied with it. There's just a couple little mistakes and a couple little things I would change, but because it means so much to me, and even the fans for that matter, because I have gotten a lot of positive feedback on it, I'm definitely going to be putting this build into the A tier. Next up, we have Hello Neighbor Alpha 2, and this is the very first how to build that I ever put on the channel. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to this house, there are quite a few different mistakes, and there are quite a few different things that I would like to change. However, without this how to build series, the channel isn't where it is today. So this video does mean a lot to both me, the fans, and the channel overall. So it's without a doubt in my mind that this video and this series has to go into the S tier, just because of how much it means to the channel. Still a house that I'm really happy with, but like I said, it's just not particularly accurate, and that is the main reason that I did remaster it, because I think it was long overdue, but still more than satisfied with it. Next up, we have Hello Neighbor Act 1. Now, whenever it comes to this build, I really do enjoy it because it's one of the more accurate builds on the channel, and it even comes with some playable features. So I do really think that's a cool addition to that build, and it makes it a little bit more unique. Now, the only downside to this build, and it's not, I guess, the most fair judgment because it is kind of one of the older ones on the channel, but I do find the building style is a little bit older compared to some of these other builds, but like I said, that's only because it's one of the oldest how to builds on the channel, but overall, still a very solid build. So in terms of the accuracy and the way that everything is laid out, it's perfect. I love it. The only downside, once again, is I would just like to update it, revamp it, if you will. And just make it a little more up-to-date than what it is, I guess. So this one, it doesn't quite make the S or the A tier, but it will make the B tier, because it's kind of just in the middle. The accuracy is great, the build style is old. That's all it is. I'm going to be honest with you guys, when it comes to Act 2 is pretty much just copy-pasted Act 1 with a few additions, so I'm not gonna lie, these two are gonna kind of fall back to back, but I'm gonna have to put it behind Act 1 in the tier list, because at the end of the day, Act 1 does come first, and it's a copy-paste, so Act 2 is not a thing without Act 1, if you will. Okay, so next up we have Hello Neighbor Act 3. Now, I'm pretty sure that the general consensus on the channel is probably that this is the worst how to build. Unfortunately, whenever it came to this one, I started off the build pretty strong. However, at the time, a lot of people did really want Act 3 and they wanted to see how it was built and all that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, that did cause me to rush, which ended up pushing out this product. And I know it's not the greatest, and unfortunately, it's not particularly accurate. It doesn't look the greatest. It's just overall just not that good. And it is something that I would like to remaster in the future, but this is pretty undisputed that it is going into the D category. This is going to end up being at the bottom. It's just very unfortunate circumstances where, once again, it was rushed, it doesn't look that great, and overall doesn't mean too much to the channel. I'm hoping one day to remaster it, but hey, you never know. I guess we'll see. Okay, so now that we're through all of the alphas as well as the acts, now we get to change the franchise. We're going to be looking at Granny for the next little bit. So we're going to start off with Granny 1, and if I'm being honest with you, this is probably one of my favorite how to builds on the entire channel. The reason for that is because it was the first time that I tried something different, and not only that, we also used this map for many different things, including hide and seek, and we streamed it live very often on the channel. And for a while, it was even the favorite hide and seek map, I would like to think. So overall, I'm really happy with the build. There is a few, just a few inaccuracies, unfortunately. Whenever future updates came out that weren't with the original house, once again, it was kind of the same boat as Act 3. They were a little bit rushed, but regardless of that, overall, a really good build. It means a lot to me. It was the first time I tried changing franchises from Hello Neighbor to Granny, and I'm really happy with this product. So, we're going to put this thing right behind Alpha 2 in the S tier. One of my favorite builds overall. So to follow that up, now we have Granny number 2. Now, this build is honestly pretty good. I'm not going to complain about it too much. The build is accurate, it looks pretty good, I was able to follow up with the updates very well, but honestly, I would maybe probably change just a couple of blocks just to mix things up and make it a little bit more accurate. Overall, looks really good, but yeah, I would say honestly if I had to rank this thing, I would probably put it in the A tier, right behind Alpha 1. Because, like I said, it's a great build overall, I have no complaints, and just a double thumbs up, I guess. Next up we have Granny 3. Now, this thing is pretty accurate, but it comes with one giant flaw. The fact that you can't have wallpaper in Minecraft, or at least not without add-ons, and whenever it comes to how to build, I try and just use vanilla Minecraft because I want to make it as available for everybody. Now, whenever it comes to Granny 3, like I had mentioned, the thing that I had to do is I had options. I could either build the inside accurate or the outside accurate. I chose to go with the inside, so you can see that I tried to use a lot of the different terracotta blocks, and I put banners on the outside to kind of make it look like a house, but I don't know, in the end, I'm not too satisfied with it. It's still a half-decent series, but overall, it's okay, so I guess we'll put it right in front of Hello Neighbor Pre-Alpha, but it will go into the C tier. Whoops. Okay, I guess it's just gonna go there for now. Okay, so next up, we have two different franchises. We have Baldi's Basics, as well as Bendy and the Ink Machine Chapter 1, which I would like to revisit one day, but for now, we'll start with Baldi's Basics. Now, whenever it comes to this build, it's a little bit tricky, because there's not really that many details that were put into the schoolhouse, but it's for good reason. It's just that in the actual game itself, there's not that much going on in there. There's also one inaccuracy. I'm pretty sure one of the bigger part of the builds, I'm not too sure if it was the cafeteria or if it was the gym, or there's a part of it anyways that isn't all that accurate. I don't even think that I really knew what was supposed to go into it at the time. I'd have to revisit this and go look at it again, but overall it's an okay build. It's not too bad, it's not too great, it kind of just floats, I guess, but unfortunately it will still have to go into the C tier, and it'll end up going behind everything, both pre-alpha and Granny number 3. To follow that up, we have Bendy and the Ink Machine Chapter 1, like I mentioned earlier, and honestly, this build did really good for its time. I know that there's a lot of blocks that could be updated and changed, but for the time that this came out, I was really satisfied for the way this thing looked, and I think it did pretty well in terms of the fan reaction as well. So I really enjoyed this build. I think that it's very accurate. I worked really hard on this thing. It is one of the biggest builds on the channel, I would like to think, and overall, once again, I'm going to say the same thing that I said about Granny 2. It's just a double thumbs up. This thing's awesome, and I'm going to put it in the A tier, but I'm putting it right in between Hello Neighbor Alpha 1 and Granny number 2. So overall, great build, really happy with this thing, and I highly recommend revisiting it, and if you haven't built it yet, maybe look into something like that. Alrighty, so now we're going to return to Hello Neighbor, but we're going to look at the custom houses that have been built on the channel over the years. Now, the first one that we're going to be looking at is the one that I built alone, and then we'll be looking at the JD_Tobin house. So to start off with mine, this is a build that I really did enjoy building. It was something unique and special to the channel because it was something that I finally got to build myself. Obviously I tried to build something similar to Hello Neighbor, but I find that it wasn't colorful and big and extravagant like all the other Hello Neighbor houses are supposed to be, and the inside is just a little bit outdated. I find it's some of my older building styles, but one unique aspect to this build is that it was actually playable, so that was pretty cool and that was something that was unique to it. Overall, I think that it's an okay build. It's not the greatest, but once again, still something unique. So if I had to choose where this thing's going to go, it's probably once again going to go in the C tier. And this one, I'm probably going to put right behind Hello Neighbor Pre-Alpha, but right before Baldi's Basics. Only because, once again, it's playable, it's unique, it's something special. Next up for the custom Hello Neighbor houses, we have the JD_Tobin house. Now, this build was very special to me because this is the first time that I actually really collabed with somebody on such a big project and a build of this stature. Our goal was to put together something that was very unique and special to both of us, combining all the different Hello Neighbor houses, and overall, I think we came out with a super cool product. We also did it while live streaming, which was the first time that I did something like that on the channel, and overall, this is just an incredible build that I'm so happy that we decided to do together. Now, whenever it comes to something like this, I think it's pretty clear that it has to be an S tier. Now, I couldn't quite put it ahead of Hello Neighbor Alpha 2 because obviously that's the channel icon, that's the first ever build that got me to where I am. Granny number 1 is extremely nostalgic and super special as well, so we're going to put it right behind that, but nevertheless still in the S tier because it's an incredible build. Alrighty, so next up we have the Remastered Alpha 1 and Alpha 2 house. Now, the thing whenever it comes to the remastering of the houses, all of the mistakes that I had previously mentioned earlier can be fixed, right? So that's the big thing that I took into consideration when remaking these. So we'll start off here with Alpha 1, and I'm really happy with the way this thing turned out. I changed and fixed the roof like I had mentioned earlier, I fixed up the inside and all of it is modern and up to date with all my new building styles, and overall I think this is a fantastic build. So you'd think that this would rank super high, but there's kind of a little bit of a twist. Whenever I had originally built this thing, I had posted a poll up on my channel and I asked people, do you prefer the original or the remastered version? Now the remastered version did very well for itself and everybody really did like it, but a lot of people bought into more of the nostalgia and they liked the original more, which hey, that's okay with me. I mean, they're both great builds, right? So in this case, I guess I'm going to relate more with you guys and I'm going to go with your judgment call here, and I'm going to actually put this house behind the original. Whoops. There we go. Perfect. Now whenever it comes to the Alpha 2 house, that is actually currently still being uploaded on the channel as we speak. So whenever it comes to this house, this is the newest house that I have on the channel currently, and I'm really happy with the overall product. I was able to fix everything, made it a lot more accurate to the original build in Hello Neighbor, and I really do think this thing is awesome compared to the original. Now, I did use a very different block choice, and I ended up really mixing things up so that it was unique and special, but I don't know. This thing could honestly rank anywhere, and I don't know if this is going to age well, but there probably is some recency bias added to this as well, but I'm honestly going to put this thing in the S tier. And I'm going to put it right behind everything else, but nevertheless it's still going to be ranked among the greats, I guess you could say. So now for the tier list, this next part gets pretty interesting because there's 2 builds left, but you guys actually aren't familiar with these because they haven't been put on the channel yet. This first square right here, we have Granny number 1 Remastered, as well as Hello Neighbor Alpha 3. Now these are 2 builds that I've been working on for a while now, and I'm very proud to announce that they are finally going to be coming to the channel very soon. I'll have some dates on the screen for whenever you can expect them. But before we rank them and put them on the list, here's a little preview. Now I hope you guys enjoy both of these builds. I'm really excited to post them and I can't wait to get some reaction, and drop a comment and let me know what you think beforehand before we actually get to build them and take a deeper dive into the builds. But whenever it comes to Granny 1 Remastered, I really did like the original, and this is one of those builds where I really do think the overall look is a lot better and I fixed up a lot of things, I made it a lot more accurate, and overall, this is going to be a really nice build, and I hope a lot of people enjoy building it. Now, whenever it comes to ranking this, it's kind of difficult now because as you can see, we got a lot of different builds on the tier list. Sorry, my Snapchat's going off like crazy. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of struggling. This tier list was not put together before I actually started recording, and I'm kind of doing all of this on the spot. Whew, okay, so where am I gonna put this thing? When it comes to Granny 1 Remastered, where would this squeeze in? I'm gonna be honest with you, I think it's gonna squeeze right in between Alpha 1 Remastered as well as Bendy and the Ink Machine. Nope, you know what? Change my mind. It's going ahead of the Remastered Alpha 1. Yes, I think that's the spot for it. You never know. We're going to make some changes at the end. That's good enough for now. In terms of Alpha 3, I'm not going to lie. This is a good project. I'm really happy with this overall. It's pretty accurate. I had some assistance while building it. I'll make sure to mention that in the description of the actual video whenever that one drops. But I had a lot of fans help me out, send me some screenshots and some pictures of the inside of the build, around the build, because it's very dark whenever it comes to that alpha. So I did need a little bit of support, so I very much appreciate that and all the fans that had helped me with it to make it as accurate as possible. But if I had to rank it, I'm not gonna lie, this is another one where it's a little tricky, but I think I'm going to put it at the beginning of the A tier. Just because it's one of the biggest Hello Neighbor houses that I've built, it's very accurate, and it's got the newest building styles, so overall, I think this one is going to do very well, and I'm really excited. Alrighty, now it's time to move things around. Okay, so before we make any changes, there was actually one huge mistake that I made. I completely forgot about Five Nights at Freddy's 1, and it has to be on the tier list. It's one of the originals. It's something really cool that I think needs to be added, and honestly, it might even be one of my favorite indie horror games of all time, so, you know, we have to add it to the list. Just ignore the Dead by Daylight picture here. I didn't need to add that, but Five Nights at Freddy's is overall a great build. I'm really happy with it because it's super duper accurate. The only downside is it kind of uses the old build styles, and not everything kind of suits, I guess, like my building standards of today. So it's a good build, but it happily slips into the B tier. It's going to go right in behind Hello Neighbor Act 2. So now that everything's all complete and done, there are a few changes that I'd like to make, starting with Granny number 3. Now, when I look back on it, I don't know why I put it that high, because, not gonna lie, because of the banners on the outside, it's just not that great. This has to go right down into the D tier. It still is ahead of Hello Neighbor Act 3, but it belongs in the D tier. The inside looks great and fantastic. The outside, it just doesn't look great. It's still good, but, you know, whenever you compare it to all these other builds, it's unfortunately not the greatest. The other thing that I'd like to do is I find I have too many builds in the A tier, and it wouldn't be right to have all of them up there, so I am going to be bringing Granny number 2 down to the B tier, but it will be at the top just like this. As for that, I think at this point, guys, I'm really happy where I have everything right. I would like to think that everything's in the same spot, and maybe down the line this is something that I could revisit, because you never know, like, look at putting Hello Neighbor Alpha 2 Remastered up at the top in the S tier. That could be a little bit bold, or even Alpha 3 at the top of A. You know, we're gonna have to see how some of these things age, and you never know. And I'd like to know what you guys have to say and think. If you want to, in the comments below, rank all of these. Let me know what you think. What would you change? What would you keep? It's just, overall is a great project. It was a lot of fun doing something like this, and I will have a lot more of these coming in the future. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next one. But anyway, till next time, guys. Peace.